I've made a lot of mistakes as a voice AI developer, and in this video, you're going to learn my top 7 mistakes so you don't have to make them. If you don't know who I am, my name is Peter. I run an agency called MyTrust AI, and over the past 6 months, we've deployed over a dozen voice AI solutions to various businesses. And in this one, we're going to show my biggest mistakes that I've made. Hopefully, you don't make the same ones, and you can just avoid these kind of potholes. So, without any kind of fluff, we'll jump straight into it. So, the biggest one, if you take anything away from this video, this is the big one. I didn't build flowcharts before starting my development. So, a big pain point for me was when I got a client. Uh, During the kind of sales call, I would be kind of mapping out in my brain how the demo would look, and then I would get really gun ho and start developing this demo. And when we went to go and deploy it, we would have these kind of obvious potholes, right? Where I just clearly missed something or it didn't work as per the client's request. So a easy way to fix this, takes about 5 minutes, is just to build a flowchart, and you can just map out the agent so you can take the thoughts in your brain and then just put it to paper. You'll really be able to visualize how an agent will look and to give you a kind of plan or map to be able to kind of develop these voice AI agents. This is super, super important. If you take anything away from that, please just build flowcharts before you start anything. Here you can see a very simple agent that I've recently developed for a client. It's just an after hours agent, and it's super, super easy, and it can just basically take my thoughts and put it to paper. Yeah, I would highly recommend you just build out flowcharts before every single development. Number two, I wasn't using dynamic variables to their fullest extent. So if you don't know what dynamic variables are, basically we can pass in information based on custom information into the prompt before a call is initiated. So that can be like a name, an email address, a phone number, any kind of qualifying information, the current time and time zone of the agent. And this really helps us create a very personal and customizable agent for that specific caller. I wasn't really doing this to its fullest extent, and you can get really crazy with some dynamic variables. So I'd highly recommend playing around. The ones on screen are the ones I use for almost every single agent, which is email, name, phone number, direction, whether it's an inbound or outbound call, and then qualifying information if we have any, and then the current time and time zone. This really helps for agents just to become the best possible, and be able to provide contextual information for that specific user. Highly recommend use dynamic variables wherever you can. Makes the experience better. Number three, I wasn't capturing email addresses or phone numbers before the call initiated, especially if it was for an agent for kind of booking appointments. So I ran into this issue where we built out an agent, and in the agent, we were booking appointments into a cal.com and then into a Google Calendar for the client. The issue was we found that currently voice AI is very poor at picking up email addresses. So it may turn an at symbol into an AT, it formats it weirdly, it might miss a letter, and it just isn't as consistent as we would like. So unfortunately, we found that the best solution for this was to just capture that email address or phone number before the call was initiated, and then use that to book the appointment. And then we just confirm that email address or phone number while they're on the call. We found this to have a 100% hit rate. And it doesn't matter how good an agent is. If it gets the email address wrong, there's no point in even building out the agent, because we can't complete a successful call, as in booking an appointment, if the email address is wrong. They get it wrong, blah blah blah, it sends to the wrong email address, they don't have the confirmation, it doesn't return into their calendar. It's just a huge mess. It's easier to just capture this information before the call is initiated using dynamic variables, and then just confirming that back with the caller. We found a much higher hit rate. Number four, wasn't capturing time zones or cities before booking appointments. So we ran into an issue where we essentially built out this agent where we were again booking in appointments, And when it would go through the phase of being like, okay, these are the times, it would say, okay, here's 4 o'clock, let's say. 4 o'clock is available. The client would say, yep, all good. 4 o'clock is cool for me. And then it would book in. But unfortunately, because they're in a different time zone, it would book it in at 3 o'clock their time, not 4 o'clock. And they weren't free at that time, right? So an easy fix for this was just to add in to capture the time zone or what city they're in before we go and book appointments. And then we use that information in the tool call to be able to customize the time slots per the user's time zone. So when the user says, oh, I want a 4 o'clock appointment, it's actually 4 o'clock their time, not our time. This is really big, especially if you're trying to build out agents that are highly consistent and don't have any errors. Um, highly recommend this. Just it's a super easy fix. Just capture the city or time zone, confirm it, and then we can grab the time zone kind of name like Australia/Sydney, and then we can pass it through that way. Number 5, I wasn't using Claude models. So the gold standard for voice AI is to use OpenAI kind of LLMs, either that be 4.0 or 4.0 mini. We found that we couldn't get it to be very conversational in its outputs. We found that 4.0 and 4.0 mini were quite stunted and robotic in their outputs, and it just created for a very poor user experience. When we switched over to Claude, it prompts a little bit differently, but once you understand how it kind of works, the outputs are far better because Claude was made for writing purposes. We can get really conversational outputs that really benefit the kind of customer because the agent sounds conversational. It sounds casual. It flows nicely. It takes ums, ahs, and pauses. It's really solid. The big drawback with Claude, we found that when using tool calling, we found that it was quite poor at doing that. The solution we found was when you're using in conversational flows in retail, for instance, to change over the model, the LLM model, when using tool call and the following conversation node. So we would change it over from Claude over to 4.0, and then the next one would be, say, 4.0 mini or 4.0, depending on how kind of important we needed that to be. We found that to be the best case scenario where we could get 100% success rates, but we could still have that conversational flow for the majority of that call. So if you haven't checked out the Claude models, I'd highly recommend it. Either 3.7 or 3.5 haiku, whatever works for you guys and your budget. So next one, I wasn't using a prompt template. So we had clients coming in, they would want a demo, and we would build out the demo by hand. So we would be typing it out, filling in each section. We didn't have a template to follow. So we really didn't have kind of like a consistent like North Star where we could port this prompt over and then edit it from there. This really helped reduce our development time, and we could get demos out the door a lot quicker because we could just use a prompt template, fill in the gaps where we needed to, and then deploy it just as a minimal viable product, and then tweak it from there. Because for a client, for us, a client comes to us, they want a demo, they want it instantly. And the faster we can get that to them, the higher they are to convert and the happier they are that we're, competent and we know what we're talking about. So if you do, use a prompt template. Can't stress this enough. It saves you so much time. If you want a video going over my own prompt template, just leave a comment down below. I'll get to it and kind of make a video about it. And last but not least, I was making agents way more complicated than they needed to be. So it's so easy to get carried away and to add complex rules and all of these stuff. But as you add more rules, you add more rigidity. So we were encountering a issue where we had this kind of agent, which was quite good, but it didn't know how to handle edge cases well enough. It just wasn't dynamic and it couldn't handle differences in conversation and flow. It kind of got a little bit stunted. It wasn't super noticeable, but it was noticeable enough to kind of see a drop in conversions. So when we kind of went back and re-looked at this prompt, we simplified it right back to the basics. We actually found that it was more fluid, it could handle more edge cases, and overall be a better experience for users. So if you're finding that your kind of outputs are more rigid and it's kind of sounding a bit robotic, the best thing you can do is not add things, but also remove things that are just unnecessary. You'll find that they'll perform better and it'll actually be a lot cheaper because it doesn't have to process so many tokens. Um, big one, just remove as much fluff out of it as possible and just keep it simple, stupid. Like, just keep it as simple as possible, and you'll find that it's easier to edit and to change when kind of issues arise. So that comes to my end of my 7 biggest mistakes when building voice AI agents. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you don't fall into the same trap as I did. The big one, if you take anything away from it, just use flowcharts. That's the biggest one. You'll save yourself so much development time, and your client can actually see how a conversation can flow. They can add their own notes into it, and then you're both on the same page. You have the kind of this visual reference piece to use, like a map. So biggest one, just use a flowchart. But these are all super important. Don't fall into the same traps I did. Um, if you want a video going over my own prompt template, let me know. I'll make a video on it. But until the next one, ciao.